Welcome to another video on the housing market and the question on everyone's mind, will housing ever be affordable again? The current state of the housing market is a hot topic with home sales down, inventory rising, and home prices seeming to have peaked. Some experts are even suggesting that we may be at the beginning of a housing crash, but it's too early to tell. Right now, we'll take a deep dive into the current state of the housing market and explore the factors that are contributing to these trends. We'll look at everything from supply and demand to interest rates, and we'll explain how each of these factors is impacting the market. We'll also explore the potential implications of these trends for home buyers and homeowners. I mean, what does it mean for those who are looking to buy a home in today's market? Is it a good time to buy or should you wait? And what about those who already own a home? How will these trends impact your property's value and your ability to sell in the future? So if you're curious about what's really going on in the housing market and what the future might hold, then you won't want to miss this video. I'll provide you with the insights and information you need to understand the current state of the housing market and what it means for you. But before we get too far, you know what time it is. Drop the track. Welcome back, and don't forget to smash that like button, share knowledge with your friends, and subscribe to The Market Genius for more amazing content on the housing market, stocks, crypto, bonds, all different types of investments, and just anything that's here to help you make money. I really appreciate you tuning in. Now, let's get into the data that we have from October to see if housing is even slightly becoming more affordable, especially here in Metro Atlanta. And as always, in order to really get an idea on what's going on with the housing data, well, we got to check the data. Because remember, feelings don't matter, only facts do. So let's take a look in the Georgia MLS and see what numbers that we have from this October compared to last October. One of the main things that stands out, and it's not really all that surprising given the current climate that we're in, but we have a 13% decrease in the amount of homes that are sold this month compared to last year, October. And it actually is a really, really extremely low number. I mean, this October, we only had 5,309 homes sold. And how does that compare to the last couple of years? Well, let's take a look. So in 2022, we had 6,105 homes sold. In 2019, 7,700 homes sold. In 2021, 85, almost 8,600 homes sold in the month of October. And then at its peak over the last 5 years, we have October of 2020 with 9,228 homes sold. So that represents a huge decrease, almost a 40 to 50% decrease in the amount of homes that have sold in the month of October, compared all the way back to October of 2020. And these numbers will have a big impact on housing prices. However, as we're looking at the numbers, we see that housing prices haven't quite been affected by the massive drop in the amount of demand for homes. But let's take a look at what housing prices did actually do last month. So back up to the numbers here, we do see that median sales price actually increased about 4.6% compared to last October, up to $385,000. But wait, you've been watching our previous videos. We let you know that here in Metro Atlanta, the peak of median sales prices is actually $395,000. So any number that we have lower than $395,000 does still signal that we're under that waterline, right? So I don't mean necessarily underwater. Well, quite a bit of people who paid too much for their houses and are underwater if they need to sell it anytime soon, but we're not here to talk about that. But if housing prices continue to stay under that median price of $395 here for Metro Atlanta, it's safe to say that we've hit the peak, and maybe if you're waiting on the sidelines, that relief might be coming in the terms of being able to get a cheaper price. Now, for average residential sales price, that was up almost 6%, up to nearly $459,000. I remember back in 2020, we were selling brand new homes, like brand new 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom homes, 2,000 square feet for only $200,000. And to fast forward only just 3 years from now and to see the average residential sales price at $459,000, yeah, I know that a lot of people are upset with that. And I know that a lot of people wish that something would be done about that. But hey, what can you do? The government decided to just print trillions of dollars and just give it out to everybody, including other countries and people who aren't even supposed to be here. But like I said, that's a topic for a different video. Now, I know that a lot of people have been saying the reason that home prices are going up is because that there's not a lot of inventory. And it may seem like that with inventory or the amount of active residential listings actually decreasing from last year, down almost 10%, down to 15,264 homes actively for sale right now. But if we take a look at the low of active residential listings, which was actually March of 2022, when we only had 6,700 homes available for sale, now we're up at least 2.5 times that today. So we are starting to see more inventory coming to the market, not just here in Metro Atlanta, but across the entire United States. You do have more inventory coming to the market, but you aren't starting to see the home prices start to match that. And that's okay. We'll talk a little bit more about why that is. Now, the next thing that is really making it extremely unaffordable to be able to buy a home, I mean, home affordability has to be at a multi-decades low, obviously, are the high mortgage interest rates. Now, just a few years ago, we all know that interest rates were 2.5%, 3%, 4%, even 5% sounds a lot lower to where they are today. Depending on your credit, 7.5, got bad credit, 8 and some change, right? So mortgage interest rates are really playing a huge role in the affordability of housing right now. But here's my question to anybody who's sitting on the sidelines, and I'm not saying whether you should or shouldn't be on the sidelines, but if you're waiting on mortgage interest rates to come down, I got 2 questions for you. Number one, what makes you think that mortgage interest rates are actually going to come down? Do you have specific data that says that, or is it just a gut feeling? Because remember, I told you that your feelings don't matter. Only data really matters. So are you sitting on the sidelines just saying like, hey, like I really feel like mortgage interest rates are going to come down? Or do you know something that, we all don't know? If you do, please share it in the comments. And now my second question for you is, what are you going to do if mortgage interest rates don't come down? A lot of people sat on the sidelines last year saying that, hey, mortgage interest rates aren't going to stay up this high for much longer. Fast forward 12 months later, they're even higher, and the average residential sales price has jumped up 6%, which means that they're probably still on the sidelines, and that same house or that same type of home that they wanted is 6% more expensive if it has sold. If it hasn't, well, we're not going to go too deep into the numbers. It's just more expensive, right? So what are you going to do if mortgage interest rates don't come down? And let's take a quick look at an article that we have from CNET. Today's mortgage rates, 30-year fixed mortgage rates rises against recent drop. Last week had some pretty good news on the mortgage front, but experts warn it might not last long. And they always say that there was some pretty good news on the mortgage front if mortgage interest rates drop a couple tenths of a point or a couple hundredths of a point. But let's be honest, we've seen mortgage rates double in the last 12 to 18 months or so, and a couple of tenths of a point or a couple hundredths of a point, that's nothing. We really want to see, or the people who are waiting really want to see, some big decreases in order for them to get back into the market. One of the main points of the article includes that prospective home buyers are still facing the worst affordability in nearly 4 decades, a result of elevated mortgage rates, low for sale inventory, and expensive home prices. To purchase a median price home with a 20% down payment, a borrower with a 30-year fixed rate mortgage at 7.79% will be on the hook for a $2,567 monthly payment, and that's before taxes, insurance, and fees, according to Black Knight's November mortgage data report. That average monthly payment is up almost 94% over the past 2 years. Now, as a realtor, I know that these numbers aren't common. The average person who's buying the average home is not putting down 20%. Because if you were to buy the average home or the average price home based on sales prices here in Metro Atlanta, that would mean you're buying a home for $460,000, and 20% of that is actually 92 grand. So if you got 92 grand, that's what your payment would look like. But let's do the numbers. If you're like the average person, or you're just a first-time home buyer and you're going to use a FHA loan, what would your monthly payment actually look like given today's rates? So we're taking a look at the mortgage calculator here. And if you were to buy a home at $458,000 using the FHA loan, which means that you would only have to put down 3.5% of the purchase price as your down payment, and you're doing a 30-year fixed rate mortgage with, just like the article talked about, an interest rate at 7.79%, your monthly payment, including taxes and insurance, plus you got to pay PMI because you didn't put down 20%, your mortgage payment would actually be $4,160. So comment below, let me know if that is something that is affordable to you, or would you rather just rent and invest the difference like I talked about in my other video? Comment below. Now, if you're anything like me, you understand that real estate is based on supply and demand, just like any market, right? How many people want to buy something and how much of it is available? And what we're starting to see, as I talked about previously in the video, is that housing inventory has been creeping up. A lot of people aren't noticing, mainly because most people aren't really shopping for homes right now. I mean, mortgage demand is extremely low, and you just saw the numbers, especially here from Metro Atlanta, in terms of the amount of homes that are selling. So housing inventory is creeping up. People just really aren't paying attention. And unfortunately, that has not translated, well, depends on what side of the market that you're on, but if you're buying, unfortunately, that has not translated into lower home prices. But I can let you know for sure that home sellers, they are now starting to cut their home prices, or the prices that they're asking for, at a record rate. Price cuts are at the highest rate that they have pretty much ever been. And we also have now Wall Street investors starting to sell these homes. Like all of the homes that you saw, all of these rental companies buying, they're starting to sell these homes now, or a big portion of them. And a lot of people are sitting back wondering like, well, why would they sell these homes, Mark? I thought that they were going to be landlords forever. I thought that their goal was to make sure that we're always renters. And while they may sound like it makes sense, here's what they're thinking. So for a large investor like a hedge fund or something like that, right? Their goal is simply to make money. They don't really care about being landlords. The reason why that they put all their money into real estate over the last couple of years was because their rate of return exceeded what they could get pretty much elsewhere. But right now, if you look it up, you can look at things like government bonds, for example, that are paying upwards of 5% every single year, guaranteed money. There's almost no downside to that. And for them, they're looking at it and saying, well, you know, I would rather put my money in government bonds. I would rather put my money in other fixed rate assets that actually exceed what I would be making on a real estate investment, because, you know, there's such thing called a cap rate. Without getting into the details, a cap rate is essentially what percent an investor can expect to make off of their rental every single year. And for most places across the United States, that cap rate is lower than what they could get by just buying government bonds and letting their money sit. So Wall Street investors are starting to sell these properties, and we're going to have a huge increase in inventory. And that increase is probably going to be coming very soon. Even if you're not paying attention, that means that houses are going to take a lot longer to sell. And the longer something takes to sell, obviously you can kind of imagine what's going to happen next, right? People are going to start and continue to cut their prices majorly. I know I have some listings right now that I've had to cut prices on, and I am not happy about it, but you can only sell something for what someone is willing to pay for it. And here we have another article from MT Newswires, which says housing inventory rises in October as pending sales drop, according to Zillow. The article continues saying, with mortgage rates nearing 8% in October, the U.S. housing market continues to turn cooler, with inventory rising and appreciation decelerating, according to Zillow chief economist Skylar Olson. As interest rates rose, some pent-up sellers appear to have been shaken free of waiting for rates to drop. New listings have nearly escaped the red annually and are trending out of a mortgage rate lock induced hole. And so basically what they're saying there is that people who have been waiting to sell their homes, I mean, obviously, like, how long are you really going to sit on the sidelines? If you need to relocate or if you need to downsize, eventually people are going to bite the bullet. I know that's probably not the best reference there, but eventually people are going to just go ahead, put their house on the market, thinking that they cannot wait out mortgage interest rates. And when this happens, you're going to start to see sellers get on the market. Unfortunately, people have a really short-term memory. So people are going to still think that they can sell their houses for 2020 prices and 2021 prices. They're going to think that, you know, they don't have to stage the house properly or they don't have to make any repairs. They're going to put the house on the market and it's going to sit. In fact, the amount of days that it takes to sell a house right now is actually a lot higher than it was over the last couple of years. It takes about 50 days to be able to sell a house. Well, that's the median days that it takes to sell a house right now. But most homeowners aren't thinking that. They're used to, hey, my neighbor sold their house back in 2020 in the weekend, and they're thinking that they can do the same. It's just not going to happen. And lastly, we have an article from Fortune here that says the housing market is starting to crack. Sellers are cutting prices at record levels, and you can no longer price based off of where sales were, which is really what I just mentioned. And so there you have it. To answer your question, is housing going to become more affordable again? It really is anyone's guess. But if you're asking me, I am definitely saying that housing is going to become more affordable over the next coming years. How long is it going to take? Who knows, right? Nobody has a crystal ball on it. But keep in mind that although the last housing crash, started in 2006, right? It took all the way to 2010 or 2011 for things to be able to bottom out. So if you're doing any math or if you're keeping track with my projections, I believe that the housing crash started in June of 2022. Now, it may take till 2025, 2026, 2027 for housing prices to get more affordable. However long you want to wait, that's totally up to you. But here's my advice. If you are planning on buying a home, number one, make sure that you buy a home that you're going to stay in for 10 years. Even Zillow says it's going to take about 13 years to break even on a home purchase if you make it today. So first things first, if you're going to buy a home right now, you really need to make sure that that's going to be a home that you're going to be in for the long term. The second thing that I would say, and this is like a little secret that I use with a lot of my clients right now, is research the school districts that are around your home, right? Whatever school district that your home or your potential home that you're looking for is zoned for, make sure that it's a really good school district. That is one way to really be able to protect your investment as you move forward, because homes in good school districts rarely tend to fall, especially like over the long term. People are always going to want to be in a place where their kids can get a good education, and that's whether you have kids or not. So those are the two things that I would do if I were buying. One, find the right home that I'm going to be in for a while. And then two, make sure that if I do buy a home right now, it's in a really, really good school district. Now, if you're planning on selling a home, you have a bigger challenge now than home sellers have actually seen over the last couple of years. So there's a couple of things that you want to do to make sure that you can actually sell your home and get the right price. And of course, it doesn't sit on the market forever. So one, make sure that you watch the video on actually the 4 tips that I have for sellers. That is a more comprehensive overview of the 4 secret things that I have for my sellers to do. But in a nutshell, you want to make sure that you put your best foot forward. Make sure that the house is essentially as brand new as you can make it when you're selling it. And then also the other thing that you want to do is be strategic about when you sell. If you want to get the highest price, sell at the right time. So sell your house in the spring. Of course, if you're buying another house, you're probably going to end up paying the best or highest price of the year as well. But, there's always trade-offs. So if you're going to sell, I would say wait till the spring, get the highest price, and make sure that it's marketed properly. But that's all I've got for today. I really appreciate you tuning in. And I hope I was able to answer some of your questions on if the housing market will ever be more affordable or actually affordable again. So if you enjoyed this information, please make sure that you hit the like button, hit the share button, make sure that YouTube algorithm knows that we're putting out real real good information that people like to hear and enjoy. And of course, make sure that you subscribe and join the Genius Crew. Peace. Catch you in the next one.